the world kind of wants to put everything in a neat little box. Like everything has to be black or white, good or bad, us versus them.
Yeah, for sure.
These books we are diving into today, they're all about, they're about chucking that whole idea right out the window.
Interesting.
You've got Rainbow Souls, America Loves, and Women, Wisdom, and Love.
Okay.
All by Harold W. Becker.
Okay.
And let me tell you, he really goes for it. It's like he's challenging us to really look deeper, and see beyond those easy answers that we all reach for sometimes.
Yeah, I see that. That's so true.
Yeah, so
I think what's really fascinating is how Becker tackles this whole idea of duality. It's like, this ingrained habit we all have, right? Of like dividing everything into these opposing forces, like you were saying, us versus them, good versus bad.
Right.
But he uses this really interesting metaphor to illustrate this. He talks about a rainbow. Like he uses the image of a rainbow.
Okay.
And he's saying that our true potential, like as individuals and as a society, lies in embracing that full spectrum of who we are. Just like all those individual colors in a rainbow, they all blend together.
Oh, I see. So it's about recognizing all those different parts of ourselves, even the ones that maybe we don't always like or want to admit to.
Exactly, yeah. And that those parts, they're not separate. They're all part of what makes us us.
Okay. I'm intrigued by this whole rainbow metaphor, but I'm also wondering like what does it actually look like in our lives?
Yeah.
How do we actually live that out?
Yeah, that's the big question.
Because, Rainbow Souls, it really dives headfirst into this idea of a great awakening.
Right.
And honestly, that phrase, it could mean so many things to so many different people.
That's true. You're right. You hear Great Awakening thrown around a lot these days, it seems like.
Yeah.
But the way Becker defines it is as this kind of collective shift in consciousness.
Okay.
Where we finally start to really recognize our interconnectedness, and we begin to move beyond these old, outdated ways of thinking and being in the world.
So it's not just about our own personal growth then. It's about something much bigger, something happening on a societal level too.
Exactly. Yeah. And he compares it to some really significant like historical turning points,
Okay.
He talks about things like the Renaissance or the Civil Rights Movement, these periods of like radical change in how people saw themselves, how they saw the world, how they interacted with each other, like huge shifts.
So these moments in history where everything kind of gets turned upside down, and we come out the other side like thinking and acting in completely different ways.
Exactly. That's what he's getting at.
Okay, so that definitely makes the stakes seem a lot higher than just me trying to be a better person, right?
Right, exactly. And one of the biggest roadblocks to this awakening, according to Becker, is what he calls the black and white mindset.
Oh, okay. So this is what we were talking about at the beginning, right?
Yeah, exactly. He's saying that this really rigid, like inflexible way of thinking, it leads to a lot of negativity,
Like what?
Well, he talks about how it leads to fear, to prejudice, and ultimately to separation between people. Because it's like we're so busy trying to categorize everything as right or wrong, good or bad, that we miss all those nuances, all the complexities of what it means to be human, to experience life and all its messy glory.
Yeah, I get it. It's like that old saying, what is it? When you have a hammer, everything looks like a nail.
Exactly.
But here, the hammer is our judgment, and the nails are, everyone and everything around us.
That's a great way to put it. And because of that, we end up missing out on so much.
Yeah.
So much richness, so much connection, so much possibility.
Right. And so much understanding too, I would imagine.
Exactly. And what's really great is that Becker, he doesn't just point out the problem. He doesn't just say, "Hey, look at this mess we've created."
Right.
He offers a solution. He gives us a way out of this black and white trap.
Okay, so what's the solution?
He calls it embracing our rainbow colors.
Yeah.
He believes that really recognizing and celebrating our unique individuality, as well as, acknowledging our shared humanity.
Yeah.
That's the key to creating positive change.
So it's like this both and kind of thing, right? It's not about choosing between being an individual and being part of something larger than ourselves. It's about embracing both of those truths at the same time.
Exactly. It's about recognizing that those two things, they're not mutually exclusive. In fact, they're deeply interconnected.
Okay, but isn't that easier said than done? I mean, look around. The world can feel incredibly divisive right now. So how do we actually bridge those divides and start embracing, like you said, those rainbow colors?
Well, that is the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Yeah.
And Becker suggests that it all starts with making a conscious choice.
Okay.
A choice to really see the world in full color, to be brave enough to challenge our own biases, and to try to approach each other, approach everyone with curiosity instead of judgment.
Curiosity over judgment. I like that.
And he uses this example, this really interesting example of a social experiment.
Oh, tell me about it.
Where they took all these people, right, from all different backgrounds, and they asked them to share personal stories with each other.
Okay.
And you know what happened? Like, the results were amazing. They really opened up. Like, walls just broke down.
Wow.
Empathy, genuine empathy started to blossom. And people formed these real, genuine connections.
Just by sharing their stories.
Exactly. And that's what he's saying. Like, that's the power of choosing to see the world in full color.
It really makes you think about how we try to simplify, like, I don't know, entire countries and cultures, right?
Yeah, totally.
We try to like put them in these neat little boxes, with these stereotypes.
Right, exactly.
It reminds me of what Becker was talking about in America Loves, this whole idea that America's so much more than a single story.
Absolutely, yeah. He actually calls America a living anthology, which I think is such a great way to put it. It's like a tapestry, right?
Yeah.
With all these different cultures and perspectives all woven together.
And he doesn't shy away from the hard stuff either. Like, he talks about the good and the bad.
Exactly. He acknowledges the triumphs, the things we're proud of.
Right.
But also the tragedies, the things that, we're still grappling with as a nation.
Yeah, and that's what really struck me too. It's so easy to kind of get stuck in these overly simplistic versions of history.
Right, for sure.
Whether it's, glorifying the past or like you said, demonizing it. But Becker, he's really urging us to go deeper, isn't he?
Yes, he is. He's saying that we can't really truly love America until we embrace its whole story. Like all of it, the good, the bad, the messy, the complicated.
So it's about holding those seemingly contradictory ideas all at the same time.
Exactly, yeah. The love and the disappointment, the pride and the shame.
Right.
It's about recognizing that those dualities, they exist within us as well,
Yeah. We contain those contradictions within ourselves too.
Exactly. And that's where this nuanced perspective comes in. That's what he's saying will allow us to move beyond that black and white thinking we were talking about earlier.
Which brings us back to that idea of rainbow colors, right?
Yes.
It's not just about recognizing those colors within ourselves, but also like woven into the fabric of America itself.
Exactly. Precisely. Becker actually argues that America, with all its flaws and contradictions, it actually has this really unique opportunity. He thinks America could actually lead this great awakening he keeps talking about.
Wow.
He sees our diversity not as a weakness, but as a huge strength.
That's a pretty bold statement, don't you think? Especially considering how often our differences seem to be at the root of so much conflict,
I know, right? It's kind of a radical idea when you think about it.
But I get where he's coming from. It's like if we can figure out how to like really truly embrace all our differences here, in this melting pot of a nation, maybe we can offer the world a whole new way of being together, a new model for coexistence.
That's a powerful way to put it, yeah. And it reminds me of this concept that's found in a lot of different cultures around the world.
Oh, really? Like what?
The idea of oneness.
Oneness.
This recognition that we're all interconnected, that there's this underlying unity beneath all the surface differences.
So it's kind of like we're all part of this one big tapestry, right?
Yes,
like threads in a giant cosmic tapestry.
Exactly.
And in a way, isn't that kind of what America's supposed to be all about? That whole e pluribus unum thing, out of many one? Maybe we've just kind of lost sight of that along the way.
Yeah, maybe. But America Loves, it's like he's challenging us to remember that vision.
Yeah.
To remember that our diversity can be our greatest strength if we let it.
And to lead with that. To lead with our diversity rather than letting it divide us.
Exactly. And to lead by example, not through force or dominance, but through compassion and understanding.
And a commitment to our shared humanity.
Yes.
It kind of feels like we're talking about a societal shift that's on par with some of the biggest movements in history.
Oh, absolutely.
Like the civil rights movement or the fight for women's suffrage. These moments where people came together to demand a more just world.
Right, and where they actually created that change.
But this feels even bigger somehow. Like it's not just about one issue. It's about everything. It's more fundamental,
You've hit on something really crucial there, because Becker, he's not just calling for external changes, right? Like changes in laws or policies. He's calling for a much deeper kind of revolution, an internal revolution, a shift in consciousness that starts with each individual taking responsibility for their own thoughts, their own beliefs, their own actions.
So it's about looking inward first and then letting that inner transformation kind of ripple outward.
Precisely. He talks about how real change, lasting change, it has to start with that inner work. With each of us looking at our own biases, confronting the parts of ourselves that we don't like to look at, and choosing love over fear, even in our everyday interactions with people who are different from us.
Which brings us right back to that idea of duality, doesn't it?
It does.
Because even within ourselves, we have the capacity for both.
Yeah.
Right. Like we're capable of incredible love and compassion, but also fear and judgment.
Exactly. And Becker's saying that the key is to recognize both sides, to embrace those dualities, both within ourselves and in the world around us. Because true wisdom, real progress, it comes from finding a way to hold those seemingly opposite forces in balance.
This whole idea of balance.
Yeah.
Like recognizing and even embracing these opposing forces within us.
Yeah.
It really resonates with me. And it makes me think about, women, wisdom, and love. And how Becker explores these ideas of like feminine and masculine energies.
Right. It's really interesting how he approaches those terms, It's not, he doesn't see them as genders, really, but more as these creative forces that we all have within us, like everyone, no matter who they are.
Okay.
And he talks about how a lot of societies, they tend to elevate the qualities that are typically associated with the masculine.
What kinds of quality?
Well, he talks about logic, assertiveness, competition, that kind of thing.
Right, those more, I guess, traditionally masculine traits.
Exactly. And at the same time, they tend to undervalue the traits that are often seen as more feminine. Things like nurturing, empathy, collaboration.
Okay, so it's not that he's saying like one is inherently better than the other?
No, not at all. It's more that, problems start to arise when those energies get out of whack, when they're out of balance.
Right. When we put too much emphasis on one and not enough on the other.
Exactly. Like Becker actually, he points out that this imbalance, this leaning too far into the masculine, it's reflected in a lot of the problems we see in the world today.
Really?
Yeah, he talks about everything from environmental destruction to social injustices.
Wow. Okay. So he's making a pretty direct connection between this imbalance and some pretty major issues.
He is. And he argues that it all stems from a lack of wisdom.
Wisdom.
Yeah. And by wisdom, he means the kind of wisdom that comes when you can balance logic with compassion, when you have ambition, but it's guided by, a genuine concern for everyone, for the greater good.
Right. So it's not about getting rid of ambition or drive. It's about making sure it's like tempered by something bigger than ourselves.
Exactly. And it makes me think about, like when you see leaders who have this amazing ability to navigate really difficult challenges.
Right. The ones who really stand the test of time.
Yes. They always seem to have this unique blend of strength, but also empathy. It's like they get it, they understand that true leadership, it's not about power over others, it's about service.
It's about using your power to empower others.
Yes, exactly. And Becker believes that women, they have a really important role to play in restoring this balance that we've lost.
Okay.
He talks about how women need to reclaim their power, their inherent power, and not in a way that diminishes men or pushes them down,
right, but
in a way that lifts everyone up,
So it's not about creating some kind of new power dynamic where women are on top and men are not, but about redefining what power itself itself looks like.
Exactly. Yes, it's about recognizing the strength in vulnerability, the wisdom in collaboration, and the incredible power of leading with love.
And he finds evidence for this in the past too, right? Like, he talks about those matriarchal societies.
He does. He gives some really interesting examples of matriarchal societies throughout history where things like collaboration, sustainability, those were highly valued. And it's like he's saying, look, there are other ways of doing this, other ways of being in the world.
It's like we can look to the past for inspiration as we're trying to build a different kind of future.
Yes, exactly. And it's important to note it's not just about, women taking on these leadership roles. It's also about men, It's about men being open to embracing those qualities that have been traditionally labeled as feminine.
Right, because those qualities, they're not inherently feminine or masculine, are they? They're human qualities.
Oh, exactly. And Becker is calling for this collective shift in consciousness where we all recognize that we need both the masculine and the feminine to create a world that's more just, more sustainable, and definitely more compassionate.
It's about wholeness, not division.
Yes. Perfectly said.
So when we bring together all three of these books, Rainbow Souls, America Loves, and Women, Wisdom, and Love, we see this common thread running through them.
Definitely.
This idea of embracing duality, of finding that balance within ourselves and then letting that ripple outwards, finding that balance in the world around us. And it's a powerful message, but it also feels like a real call to action.
It is. It totally is. It's like he's inviting us to really take a look at ourselves, to examine our own biases, to challenge the ways we might be stuck in old ways of thinking, those rigid categories. It's an invitation to embrace all of who we are, the light and the shadow, the masculine and the feminine, and to play our part in creating a world where all of that, all of who we are can not just coexist, but thrive together.
It's about recognizing that this great awakening, this shift,
it
doesn't just happen to us, it happens through us.
Yes.
Through the choices we make every single day.
You got it. So to our listeners, as you go about your day, think about this. Think about how you can bring more of that balance into your own life. How can you embrace all of who you are, and how can you use that wholeness to contribute to a world that celebrates the incredible richness of all our rainbow colors?
Keep asking those questions. Keep diving deep.